versus the book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. To your quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 years, 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the book.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness. And I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on sport.
And welcome in a very happy Wednesday to you here. Game Time Decisions on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by here as we have plenty going on across the sports landscape here tonight. In fact, we've got one Major League Baseball playoff game in the books here, and pretty much a possible series-ending situation here as the Guardians and Tigers have just finished up their game with the Detroit Tigers taking now a second game in a row to take the American League Divisional Series lead over their central champions here, the Cleveland Guardians here. Absolutely unbelievable as the Tigers won their first home playoff game in 10 years, just finished up here. And of course, that's a second straight shutout. And now they have a 2-1 lead in the best of 5 American League Division Series championship. And the Guardians, my goodness, what happened to them? All of a sudden, the bats have gone quiet. Now, it's one thing to get shut out when you have the American League Cy Young favorite, Tariq Skubal, on the mound. But that was last game. In Game 3, the bullpen was the culprit here for the Guardians. And my goodness, what a great bullpen it was. Brant Herter, 3.5 scoreless innings of Kiner Montero, who provided pretty much the bridge to the middle innings for this bullpen here. Brisky came in. I mean, you look at what this young Detroit Tigers team has been able to accomplish at this point. It is truly astounding, and which is really what makes Major League Baseball in the playoffs just so much fun to watch, to bet on, to be a part of, because it doesn't make a difference how many games you won in the regular season. The only thing that matters is ultimately, can you get hot? Can you play your best baseball when it matters the most? And the Detroit Tigers are proving that, yes, you can. And it should not be a shock that the Cleveland Guardians, by the way, who have struggled the entire second half of the season right after that All-Star game, they have not been good. They have been struggling. And when you consider all the injuries to their starting pitching, it's amazing that they were able to hang on and they were able to close out the American League Central Crown, which is what they did without a real ace of the staff. Don't forget, Bieber went down right at the beginning of the season. So they have been hobbling together a whole bunch of guys. They were hitting well. They took advantage of a weak schedule, but none of that matters because the Detroit Tigers, who nobody paid attention to for 3/4 of the season, right up until the end of August and into September, well, guess who's getting hot here with a bunch of names nobody's ever heard of, but boy, oh boy, timely hits, great pitching, solid defense, and just like that, they have got themselves a 2-1 lead. Now, can they close out the Guardians? Well, we're going to see. Game 4 will be Thursday back in Detroit. Elimination game for the Guardians here. We're going to see if they can muscle up and get it done. But the Guardians will come into that game having been held scoreless for 20 consecutive innings by this Detroit Tigers pitching staff. I repeat, 20 consecutive innings without scoring a run against Tariq Skubal and a bunch of other guys nobody has ever heard of. And that is why they are on the verge of collapse here. And we'll see if they can get it done. It's going to be interesting, but they are not the only team that has an opportunity to take a commanding lead in their best of series. The Yankees in the other side of the American League, that game coming up at the top of next hour. They are at Kauffman Stadium. They'll be taking on the Kansas City Royals, who had no problem dismissing them in Game 2 at Yankee Stadium. Won that game rather easily, as pretty much what the Guardians offense has done, the Yankees offense pretty much did it. It's one thing to hold Judge hitless and home runless and kind of keep him in check. But if you can do that to Soto and Judge, well, then you've got a great chance at beating this Yankees team. And once again, the Royals did that in Game 2. Soto had a good Game 1, was MIA in Game 2. And really, Aaron Judge, for all the great hits and the great storylines, what a great regular season baseball player he is. Fantastic stuff. MVP, real good. None of it is going to matter if he remains come September and October, where he remains MIA and when it matters the most. Yikes. They're, again, great 162-game regular season, Aaron Judge, but you got $300 million, and legacies are built on what you do in October, not July, not in April, not in May. It matters what you do here. And we're going to see tonight if he can get to Seth Lugo, who they hand the ball to at Kauffman Stadium for the first playoff game in what feels like a eternity for the Kansas City Royals here tonight. I fully anticipate that place is going to be jumping as the small market team versus the big, bad, giant New York Yankees, right? The establishment versus the little guy. That's what the storyline is here. Can the Royals get it done with Seth Lugo on the mound? Can they take a big 2-1 lead? That's what's at stake here. And if I'm the Yankees, I want an all-out effort here. I want to go up 2-1. I want to be able to control what happens from here on out. But there is nothing guaranteeing that. In fact, look at the price. The price tells you everything you need to know about what the market thinks of the Yankees just dismissing the Royals, who, by the way, were one of the better hitting teams at home this year all season long. There is no doubt the home road splits for this lineup of the Royals. They are a much better hitting team, much more dangerous at home than they ever were on the road. So the Yankees are going to have their work cut out for them. And right now, the Phillies have their work cut out for them. They are right now in the bottom of the third going up against the old spunky New York Mets here, who dismissed Aaron Nola and the Phillies again last night in a big win to take a nice series lead here, 2-1. Can the Mets close it out at Citi Field here tonight? They're up 2-1, 1 win away from advancing to the National League Championship Series for the first time since 2015. While the Phillies, they are 1 loss away from yet another early exit that would be absolutely disappointing. On a season that saw them have 95 wins. They basically wrapped up the National League East title for the first time since 2011, and it felt like that was never really in danger as they jumped out in the first half of the season. I mean, they had 50 wins before anybody. They were cruising, and then all of a sudden the second half came, and boy, they were barely a 500 team when it mattered there in the second half. So again, a team like the New York Mets playing their best baseball now at this point, taking on a team who played their best baseball in the first half of the season, and that is why they find themselves now 1 game away from advancing. Those New York Mets. Detroit 1 game away. The Mets 1 game away. The Padres 1 game away here. The Dodgers season. The Dodgers, everybody's favorites. 1 game away from going on a cruise and saying bye-bye. It's been a lot of fun. Can the Padres get that done? We got a lot of Major League Baseball to talk about. Plenty of NFL headlines as well. Come back and join us here. Game Time Decisions on the Grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last 3 running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not Gene.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Wednesday to you. I'm Joe Raineri, and we're excited here as we have in the midst of, I believe, 55 days straight of football. We got another college football game on tap here tonight. We got plenty in the NFL, headlines, injury reports, new starting quarterbacks. Oh, yeah, and maybe a new coach or two to talk about. But Gotta love postseason baseball. And we are in the midst of it right now. And every one of these series that remains is a coin flip. And nobody knows that better than Adam Kaufman stepping in, hanging with us here, Adam. And you gotta love Detroit already winning 3-0. Now 20 scoreless innings for the Guardians. Yikes. Against, outside of Tariq Skubal, guys that nobody's ever heard of. And yet they are getting the job done against the Guardians. The Mets are 0-0 right now. And imagine having your entire season on the line if you're Philadelphia at Citi Field and you don't have Wheeler or Nola available to you here. And that's the situation they find themselves in. How about the Dodgers with their 5.5 wins, I think was their number this year. And they are one game out. And if the Yankees aren't careful, Adam, they're going to be one game away from being knocked out, too. So is it the year of the dog? What are we thinking here in Major League Baseball?
Well, I think it's an interesting question, right? I mean, certainly the year of the dog in the NFL, we know that. Is it the year of the dog in Major League Baseball? It all depends on your perspective. I mean, you could argue last year was the year of the dog. Don't forget, it was 2 wildcard teams that represented both the American and National Leagues in the World Series, teams that didn't even get to 90 wins. And so could we see something like that again? Or, teams that are not obviously these high payroll teams? It's entirely possible. I mean, it's certainly, I don't know that it's good for those cities, but I would say overall it's good for the sport. It's good for fans. It's good for just the unpredictability element. We all know there's loads and loads of variance when it comes to betting baseball on a daily basis. I think there is no more difficult sport to bet on this earth than Major League Baseball, just because, bullpen variance, starter variance, which batter's going to be off on a given. It's just a train wreck that we all try and, do our best to handicap or guess right or call it what you will. But yeah, I mean, there are just certain things that I don't want to get in the way of right now. I don't want to get in the way of the Cinderella Detroit Tigers and the way that they've been playing for, really a couple of months. But in particular, they have just felt like this team of destiny for a solid 4, 5, 6 weeks. And on the other side, you mentioned the Amazons, man, the Mets and what they are doing lately. These teams just feel like they are on this collision course to meet in the World Series. And Sharapan, I know he's coming up a little bit later on the grid here. He and I were talking just before the start of the playoffs, and he said, just the way these two teams are going, why wouldn't you throw a little pizza money at an exacta Mets versus Tigers in the World Series at 50-1? That was that ticket at that point in time. You're not getting odds even sniffing that right now because it just feels like these two teams are going to be in that conversation. They are not disappointing.
It never ceases to amaze me, which is what makes Major League Baseball postseason so much fun. 162 games, I'd take the season, throw it out the window. The only thing that matters is that you get into the postseason. You got to be in it to win it, and no sport signifies that better. It's crazy.
Isn't that also one of the dumber things about Major League Baseball, this ridiculous sport that we all love? I mean, you have, like you said, you play a month of exhibition games in Florida and Arizona. You play a grueling 162 regular season games. You even have, the sort of whatever day number. I mean, not, whatever. The doubleheader, I realize it was technically games 161, 162, but that doubleheader to determine playoff fates between the Mets and Braves. And all of a sudden, we just throw everybody into the postseason that gets there and say, hey, guess what, guys? These teams, you have first round buys, but you got to deal with this after 162 and a best of 3. And then after you advance, now it's a best of 5. Deal with that, pitchers. And then you get to go to best of 7s in the ALCS, NLCS, and onto the World Series. It's stupid. The format is incredibly dumb, Joe. I mean, really, I know they don't want to play into the snow and deep into November and all that stuff, but if we're going to do this and do it right, at the very least, it should be best of 7s, like we have every single round in the NBA and in the National Hockey League. Baseball, I don't know how to fix it, but it's messed up.
Listen, I'm a big believer. If you're the better team, whether it's best of 5 or 7, win the damn series. Because let's face it, if you're the better team, You should have the pitching match. Everything favors the teams that have the bye and have these great regular seasons until you actually play the games. And teams like Detroit throw 9 relief pitchers at you. You can't hit any of them. And the Yankees are on the verge of going down 2-1 to a small market team. You should win these series, no problem. But we're going to learn a little something, I think, about this Phillies team here in this game, as it's still 0-0 in that one against the Mets. I think the Dodgers, we're going to learn a little something about them as their entire season comes up on a rookie pitcher now. That's their season is backed up on him. And then you have the Yankees, who got to go up against one of the best pitchers in the American League this year in Seth Lugo. And they're a better team at home. We know this. So how do you bet this game here tonight? Who are you leaning towards?
So I'm on the Yankees money line. I don't know if it's the right side to be on. Obviously, it's hard to go against the Royals, and especially Lugo, the way that he is pitching right now. Clark Schmidt has not been as sharp. That being said, I just am choosing to believe that the better team not quite backs against the wall like the Dodgers, and I know we'll talk about that one in the next segment, but I feel like the better team is going to be the better team. And don't forget, the Yankees won 50 games on the road this year. That was by far the most in Major League Baseball. I just think that Lugo is due for some type of regression. You know, you get into like expected WHIP, expected ERA. You know, the metrics would tell you he was somewhat of a lucky pitcher this year. Eventually water finds its level in that regard. Maybe it's tonight.
Yeah, well, it's they're going to have an opportunity to show they're the better team, right? We've got a lot to talk about on the Dodgers side as well in that Padres game. We'll do that when Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last 3 running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not genius.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. We've got a update here in pretty big game with the Phillies and the Mets right now. Phillies did scratch a run across, up 1-0, top of the 4th there against the Mets as they are up in that series 2-1. The Mets trying to close it out and an early exit for the National League East champ Philadelphia Phillies. The National League West champ Dodgers, well, they're up against it as well here as we welcome back in Adam Kaufman. That game coming up here, Adam, and you got to love it, right? All the hype, no matter what. This Dodgers team is hilarious. They've been a favorite from the get-go, even when we were all scratching our head going, this rotation is not, these pitchers stink. Everybody's hurt. We're going to top of the order. It's too top-heavy, and yet continued to be bet in the marketplace, and yet here they are, one game away from the season being over, and they've got to go with, Brazier, an opener now against Dylan Cease here tonight? What gives in this game?
So this right here, and I'd be willing to bet there are a lot of sports fans, baseball fans that would agree with me, or they're just outright betting the Padres. But I will tell you what, I am on the Dodgers money line. I did not get the CLV, the closing line value, because I thought it was going to be Cease against Landon Knack. And so the lines opened. I don't know if you were paying attention to this at that very moment when they did after that game last night, but the lines opened and it was the Dodgers minus 110, minus 105 in some places. I jumped on it there thinking that was a great opportunity. And then there was a change, obviously, to where, as you said, Brazier is going to be the opener. And I look a couple hours later, it's, crap. The Dodgers are plus 125. So the movement worked against me, and that absolutely sucked. But as far as betting this game, I feel like I'm kind of in a win-win situation, and I will tell you why. Again, I'm on the Dodgers money line. I feel like backs against the wall, season on the line, you're supposed to be the better team. Go out, to your point earlier, and be the freaking better team. Win this game. They have batted Dodgers hitters against Dylan Cease 280. He is, over his last two starts, both of those have come against LA. He has allowed, looking at it right here, 11 hits, 8 runs, 8 1/3 innings, 5 walks. He has been anything but sharp in these last 2 times out, both with LA on the other side. The reason, though, that I call this a win-win situation is either I win my bet, or I just sort of feel like I win as a baseball fan, because they went out and spent, I believe the technical term is a gajillion dollars in the offseason, and Shohei and Glasnow and all of these guys to, reload and chase a first non-COVID championship for Los Angeles in decades. And, everyone believed it was like, why even play the season? Of course the Dodgers are going to win. But that makes you want them to fail miserably and fall on their faces and lose, just like they generally do year after year whenever they have to play an actual full season. So I want the Dodgers to not win the World Series. I want them to lose. And so if they win tonight and push this series extended to a Game 5, great, I win my bet. And if they lose, then they're just done and they're eliminated. And then as a baseball fan, I win. So that's basically how I'm looking at it, Joe. It's an emotional hedge on my literal bet.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because this is a short rest here for Dylan Cease. Yeah. He only threw 82 pitches in that first game. Yeah, but he got lit. He got lit up. And in fact, I'm not in love with his control at all recently here. Now, the good news for the Padres is they got plenty of arms in the bullpen that are way better than anything the Dodgers have here. But the Dodgers' problem was Jack Flaherty, Yamamoto, and Buehler have given up 15 runs on 17 hits in 13 1/3 innings. That's your starters in games 1, 2, and 3. So it's not going to get any better from here. I mean, Landon Knack is going to have to be the bulk guy here. It feels like if the Padres win, it's an over. Is that fair? And if the Dodgers win, they got to keep this thing real close here. 3-2, somewhere in that ballpark.
That's probably right. I have a small play on the under in this game. Again, small play. It's not going to make or break my night. I'm more invested in the Dodgers to actually win the game. But I think the correlation you're talking about is right. It's probably something similar, honestly, in the Yankees-Royals game. If you think the Yankees
I was going to ask.
It's probably an over. And if you think the Royals are going to win, it's probably an under.
Yeah, well, they need to score. Yankees don't win games if they only score 1 or 2 runs. So they're going to need to score, I think, a few more of those. Adam Kaufman, a pleasure, man. Enjoy the games. Let's cash those tickets. Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last three running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not Gene.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions on this Wednesday here now, October the 9th, as we've got plenty going on, a little postseason Major League Baseball action underway right now. We're keeping an eye on, and let's not forget, tomorrow night we'll kick off the NFL Week 6, and of course, we are in the midst of a whole lot of football, 55 straight days, including a whole lot of college football during the week. Week 7 is here, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around the idea that here we are in Week 7 of the college football season. We got a game here tonight on the board, but we got some great top 25 matchups this week, in fact, that you know the public is going to be all over one or two of these sides, and we'll see what our good friend Kenny White seems to think about some of these games. Kenny, welcome in. Can't believe it is Week 7 already in college football here. Our friend CT Betts a little under the weather here today, but we got some of his best bets we'll share with you. But in the meantime, I want to ask you here about some of these games, including one that Iowa taking on Washington, which is an interesting one to me. This opened up at 3. It's 2.5. Feels like a lot of people looking to back Iowa in this one. How about you?
I'm definitely on Iowa here, Joe, and thanks for having me on the show today. I was looking forward to seeing CT's pretty face, you know, the Steve Garfield lookalike. But we can't see him today, and that's okay. I'm sure I'll get plenty of text messages from CT in the next 2 days now. But, yeah, Joe, I love Kirk Ferentz, the head coach. 25 years there. And you know what? He's won 199 games. He's won 199. Yeah. He could have won 200 at Ohio State, but he didn't. Ohio State blew him out. This is the second chance for his team to get him the 200th win at Iowa, because he does have 12 wins at Maine. He was at Maine for 3 years, went 12-21, and now at Iowa, 199. So that's big. That's big. The players know it. They'll play hard. Washington just played their Super Bowl. They lost the national championship game to Michigan, and they got their chance to get that revenge last week at home. That was their big signature win so far this year. So I think it's a letdown spot. I love Iowa here. I think they'll control the game in the trenches, and they win this one by 8.
Doesn't feel like a whole lot of points are coming in this game either, Kenny. Is that a fair assumption here? I mean, Washington, for all their faults, that's a much better defense than people have given them credit for. The question is, it doesn't feel like the same Iowa elite defense this season here. Does it to you?
I have them ranked 16th, best defense in the country. I have Washington number 30. And I have both defenses on both teams ranked better than their offenses. So that's a trend that helps me take 2.5 points off my total. My numbers were 47, but since I have that trend, I take the 2.5 off. I made it 44.5. It opened 38.5 at Circa and was bet up to 40.5. So it's coming my way, but I have no interest. Joe, my best bets over the years have always been when I can lay less than a field goal, when I make somebody higher than a touchdown. Those are my best bets.
Yep, love that there. And CT, he's all over Iowa as well. I know he sent that in for a best bet here. He was big. He's faded them over the last couple of weeks, but loves them in this spot at home after getting trounced by Ohio State. And speaking of Ohio State, Kenny, I can't think of two teams that are viewed differently by the market than these two. You got Ohio State, who has not been challenged in any way, shape, or form, going on the road to take on Oregon, who seems like every game they're in is a firefight coming down to the last 30 seconds. But hey, they win the games. It may not be to the way the market thinks they should win the games, but they still win the games, and they're a home dog here, so what gives?
Yeah, I like home dogs, and that's not why I bet the game, though. But I bet the game because the home field advantage for me is enough to shift my number from Ohio State 3.5 to making Oregon a point favorite, and only 4.5 points for home. Oregon over the years has averaged 6 points at home compared to their road games. They got a great home field, so I'm not giving them full home in this spot, because the visitor and Ohio State Buckeyes are the better team. So I did adjust for that. But again, I only have a 3.5 point difference. My performance rating on the year, and you're right, Oregon, they played Idaho. Idaho's one of the best FCS teams in the country. They're in the top 5. Boise State with Genty, they're a top 25 team. Oregon State, big rival, they blew them out. They finally took care of business in that game. At UCLA, who I think is improving every week, they beat by 21 on the road. And then last week versus Michigan State, they win by 21. But they lost the turnover battle and still won by 21. And they did give up a great touchdown for Michigan State to cover that spread. So I think Oregon's coming on. My performance rating 127 on them. Ohio State a 126. As you mentioned, their games haven't been close, but they're 2-3 ATS. That's because they played 3 cupcakes to begin the season. So I like Oregon here. Give me the points.
Yeah, the market is down on them just simply because they're not blowing teams out. But, I mean, they drop 30-plus a game. I don't know what the hell else you want. You just got to win the game, and that's all that matters, Kenny. And speaking of winning a game, I like this next game of yours here, too, as well, when we're looking at Fresno State taking on Washington State. Listen, I'll give Washington State credit. I didn't think they were going to be that good this year. But they got a real quarterback, and they offensively can score with the best of them. Now, they got to go on the road or they got to take on a Fresno State team that's looking maybe for a little redemption here. What do you think we're going to get in this one?
Yeah, two teams that both coming off losses and bad losses. Washington State lost in Boise 45-24, 2 weeks to prepare, and Fresno blown out by UNLV 59-14. That was the Matthew Sluka game. UNLV was really ready for that game. So there was some injuries on Fresno State. The week off, the extra week to prepare is going to help them get healthy. I just do not see any way that Washington State's the better team. I've got Fresno's offense just as good. The defense is slightly better. Offensive line's better. I made Fresno a touchdown in this game over Washington State. Give me the points. I think we're overrating Washington State, and they're underrating Fresno. Fresno is 3-2-1 covering the spreads, the same as Washington State. So it's like neither team's got a huge edge in overachievement so far. My performance rating for Fresno, a 107 so far. for Washington State, a 108. Again, my performance ratings, a double check for me, telling me these teams are very similar in talent. Home edge goes to Fresno. I thought they should be the favorite. We're getting points. That's another great play for me anytime I have an opposite side favorite. And Joe, I've got a ton of them this week. This is either going to be an amazing week or you may not hear from me next week.
Yeah, brother, I'm with you. There is a lot of extremely interesting spots here, and CT has got a best bet in one of these games here, and I'm on board with him as Penn State's got to fly out west to take on USC now. 5.5 is what we are seeing, and of course USC has to fly to USC. Don't even know where Minnesota is. So expecting them to go on the road and win a game against an NFL secondary was slim to none to begin with. But at home, 5.5, you buying that there, Kenny?
I am definitely on the same side as CT there. I did take the points. And again, this is tough travel for Penn State, and USC's got talent. Lincoln Riley has done a nice job.
Yeah. No, they got a lot of talent there. And every time I watch Penn State, I'm just going, it's just not a good team here. It's not somebody that should be laying these kinds of numbers that the market has them laying here. But a trip to L.A. will certainly cure all in the marketplace for them. All right, coming up, we've got the NFL side of things. We'll talk to Kenny White with more best bets as Game Time Decisions continues.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last 3 running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not Gene.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Wednesday to you. Joe Raineri alongside the great Kenny White talking some football. We'll switch gears over to the NFL here. Kenny, Week 6 kicks off tomorrow night, but some, again, very interesting spots on the card this week in the NFL. We'll start in a game I know a lot of people are going to be intrigued with, given the fact that, well, I said it. I thought Daniels was going to be the steal of the draft. for Washington at quarterback. I wasn't a big Caleb Williams guy, but I'll say this. I don't like Waldron, the OC at Chicago, but he has played better the last couple of weeks. He might actually be getting it. But it's a big ask for this Washington team to keep playing the way they've been playing going against Baltimore in this spot. 6.5 is what they're getting, Kenny, but I can't imagine sweating out an under in this game in any way, shape, or form.
No, Joe, you're right. And that the market has gone up in this game, but I still like it over. I made it 58.5. You know, you got the reigning MVP Lamar Jackson is starting to put up points. Baltimore 28 at Dallas, 35 against Buffalo, and 38 in regulation at Cincinnati last week. They're back at home. Washington, you mentioned Jaden Daniels, 4 straight wins. They are 4-1 to the over. Baltimore 4-1 to the over. And both teams have a better offense than they do defense. Washington, I have 12th best offense, 20th on defense. Baltimore, the second best offense in the NFL, the 9th best defense. So that shapes up nice. You know, Washington, it does have to come to an end. Their 4 wins are against 4 non-playoff teams with a combined record of 6-14. 4 of those losses did come against Washington, but these are 4 bad teams. The only team they played this year, the winning record, Tampa's 3-2. They lost 37-20. I hope this game's a lot the same as that one, over the 52 for me.
Then to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions there. Thanks for hanging with us here. Kenny White in the house. So what happened, Kenny, was we were talking about this Tennessee team taking on Indy this week, and you mentioned the Chicago game 1 should have been a win. They should have beaten the Jets. They should have a better record than they are, but yet here we are, and they got to take on Indy this week.
Yeah, but, you know, the week off, coming off a win, their first win, I think there's going to be some excitement, Joe. And, you know, they didn't have a lot of talent on their offensive line to start the year. I had their offensive line 28th in the NFL. I got to really believe this offensive line is going to get very good, and by next year, they will be a top 5 offensive line. Why? Brian Callahan, the head coach, his father, Bill, is the offensive line coach, and Bill is regarded still as the best offensive line coach in the world. Doesn't matter what level. This guy is tremendous. We know him as a head coach at several different stops, but he will improve this O-line. Levis has got to take care of the football, and it's amazing what talent he has around him when you're looking. Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, DeAndre Hopkins, the wide receivers. You know, Chigi Akawono, the tight end, he's outstanding too. So I have this team ranked higher, Tennessee ranked higher than Indianapolis. I'm making Tennessee a 4.5-point favorite in this game. They have the bye week. They're going to be improved. Indianapolis has really tanked the last 3 weeks. Even though they beat Chicago and Pittsburgh, it was the turnover battle they won is why they won those games. If they're even in the turnover battle in those, we're talking about an 0-5 Indy team. They're 2-3 right now, but Tennessee's the better team. All we have to do is win the game with a team that had the extra week.
Colts defense on the field for 69 plays against Jacksonville. Now they got to go back on the road for a second straight week. Good luck with that, Indy. Let me know how that works out for you. And finally, I don't even want to mention his team's name. I might break out in hives. But the Steelers somehow or another lost a game which they got 3 turnovers, blocked a field goal at home in primetime. But now the good news, I guess, is they get to take on the Raiders, who are having a quarterback controversy. And you know what they say, Kenny, right? If you have a quarterback controversy at this point, you don't have a quarterback. So what gives in this one?
Yeah, and I don't think they do have a quarterback. The organization has made nothing but bad move after bad move after bad move since they've gotten here, except Brock Bowers. That was the best move this team has ever made.
Oof.
But you know what? He can't do it all. He just can't do it all. This team's got problems. You know, Joe, when I watched, and you played sports, there's sportsmanship in all sports. Last year, Antonio Pierce, when he was the interim head coach, against the Chargers with a huge lead, called a trick play late in the third, early in the fourth. And I couldn't believe it. And I think the rest of the NFL was watching and thought the same thing. No sportsmanship.
Yep.
That is not good. I've never seen a great coach with no sportsmanship. I don't think Antonio Pierce is a head coach. He's never been a coordinator. How can he be a head coach? He doesn't know how to be a coordinator in the first place. So Pittsburgh will have more fans in Vegas this week.
Kenny White, appreciate it, my man. As always, GTD will be back after this.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last three running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not Gene.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate Kenny White stopping by here, talking some college football and NFL. Also, our good friend CT Betts, wishing him some better health, a little under the weather here tonight. But I did want to also mention his NFL best bet coming up this week. He is all over, and I agree with him. He is all over the Green Bay Packers to get it done this weekend. And I think that is a 5.5, and heck, I'd even anything under a touchdown as far as I'm concerned. And I think that is a good look as they got right last week there, although it wasn't as high scoring as I thought it was going to be. The reality is, I think now that Jordan Love is back, he's healthy. The piece, they should be much better from a offensive receiving standpoint at home against Arizona, who upset San Francisco. I am with CT on this one, man. I think Green Bay is a good look at that -5 number, which is usually a dead number in the NFL. You know, books, the sports books will give you that 5.5 because you're wondering, well, what does that mean? Are they a touchdown better? Are they not a touchdown? Like, what is the problem here? Well, the problem is I think they're way, way better than a touchdown at home in this spot here. Don't love the spot or the defense. They say defense travels. The Cardinals have no defense, and I don't think it's going to travel well to Lambeau here. So I'm with them. I'll lay the 5 easily here in this one. I wouldn't be shocked if this thing gets as high as 6, maybe even 6.5 before the kickoff in that spot there. We also have an update for you from Citi Field right now as the Mets trying to clinch their first National League Championship Series since 2015. But they're going to have some work to do here as they're down 1-0 to the Phillies, who have all sorts of bullpen arms in now. Hoffman in. Mets have been stranding some runners here. They do have or had a couple of runners on base, and it feels like every inning here. But right now, Phillies clinging to a 1-0 lead over the Mets, bottom of the 5th. 7.5, I believe, is what the total in that game was. And it doesn't shock me. A lot of familiarity between these two teams. And let's be honest, both bullpens, boy, if I'm a Philadelphia Philly backer, I am praying that we get a few more runs here, because expecting that bullpen to hold on to a 1-0 lead against this Mets team would be a big ask. But we'll see if they can get it done in this one here, as it looks like they're heading to the top of the 6th inning. Coming up here just after the top of the hour, the 3rd divisional series matchup, this one in the American League here today. We already watched the Guardians fall to the Detroit Tigers 3-0. Now 20 straight innings of being shut out by the Detroit Tigers pitching staff. They are now in a big hole here, 2-1. Detroit 1 win away from them as well, advancing to a American League Championship Series, one of which nobody saw coming, except maybe Detroit here. But the Guardians will have another opportunity tomorrow to tie this series up and hopefully get it back to Progressive Field for a all-important winner-take-all Game 5. The Yankees, coming up here in just a few minutes, are trying to avoid that fate, like the Guardians. They want nothing to do with having to worry about an elimination game and trying to get it back to the Bronx in a Game 5. The Yankees would love to win this game and then, of course, have the opportunity to close it out in Game 4. But if that's the case, the Yankees, they're going to have to do some hitting, and they are going to need their big guns to show up and show out here tonight. And the big guns, of course, Soto and Judge. Things go terribly wrong for the Yankees when Judge and Soto don't get on base and are nowhere to be found. We saw Soto have a good night in Game 1. Judge, of course, still not hitting the ball, slumping badly at this problem. But the Yankees are more than capable, if they can get one of them to live up to potential. They're good enough to score enough runs to be able to win. But Seth Lugo on the mound here tonight, and his job is simple. Keep Judge and Soto off the base pass. If he does that, then the Royals have a really good shot at winning this game. Much more on this and the Dodgers-Padres. Another hour of Game Time Decisions next here on the Grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last three running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not Gene.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome in Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday now, October the 9th. We appreciate you stopping by. I'm Joe Raineri here on the SportsGrid Network, and we have got plenty going on across the sports landscape here, starting with Major League Baseball postseason action. It is October, after all, which means... well, this is where legacies are created, and we just watched the upstart Detroit Tigers upend the Guardians earlier this afternoon in a 3-0 game. They take a commanding 2-1 lead with an opportunity to knock the Guardians out tomorrow. We are getting ready for the Yankees opening pitch at Kauffman Stadium against the Kansas City Royals. That series knotted out at 1 apiece. Seth Lugo on the mound for the Royals, taking on Clark Schmidt for the Yankees here. Yankees could have went with Louis Heel, but apparently have opted to go with Schmidt instead. Louis Heel certainly will be available out of the bullpen if they need him. Clark Schmidt there, as you can see, 3.5. Strikeout seems a little light here. Kansas City, a much better hitting team at home than they have been on the road. And Seth Lugo has been lights out all year long. Records this year for him in career best in innings pitched, strikeouts, ERA. I mean, you go down the list. He has been a career year for Kansas City here. Not to mention, quietly, this bullpen of the Kansas City Royals has become, in many aspects, almost unhittable. They have been absolutely phenomenal, and they continue to do so here as, boy, Yankees had a hard time. They can throw a couple of lefties out of that bullpen of the Yankees. They have had some issues hitting lefties, especially ones coming out of the bullpen for the Royals. We'll see what if they can get to Lugo, but there is no doubt both the Royals and the Yankees, their better split is against right-handed starting pitching. So we'll see who can get out first here. The total, 7.5, 8, somewhere in that ballpark. It feels like the Yankees are certainly correlated to an over in this spot here, if that's the way you are leaning. Clark Schmidt has been good this year, but little inexperienced as far as the postseason goes. And again, Louis Heel is there, ready to go in bulk if they need him. But we'll see. And that all depends if the Royals and Bobby Witt Jr. can get the bats going. For the Royals, it's been all about anybody but Bobby Witt Jr. Him and Aaron Judge have been just unable to get anything going offensively here in the postseason. We'll see if that changes here tonight. Either which way, certainly leaning towards an over in this matchup. And then, of course, tonight, after that, we have got a Dodgers team that has basically, their season hinges upon what they're going to be able to get out of a bullpen game from a rookie pitcher, no less, who's going to have the bulk of it. And you got to ask yourself, well, how does it come to this for the Dodgers? I mean, how in the world are they in a best-of-5 series down 2-1, and they've got to go with some sort of crazy bullpen game filled with a bunch of guys that, quite honestly, nobody's heard of or nobody would trust in this spot. But Landon Knack, the 27-year-old rookie, is going to be the bulk guy here tonight. There's going to be an opener for him, and he is a guy that this is what the season hinges on for the Dodgers. Why? Because Yamamoto, Jack Flaherty, and Walker Buehler, the 3 starting pitchers of this Dodgers team, have given up 15 runs on 17 hits and lasted 13 1/3 innings in 3 games. And that is why they find themselves badly down to the Padres in this spot here. And the Padres sending Dylan Cease out to the mound to finish it up against the Dodgers and then advance to face either the Mets or the Phillies in this one. Dylan Cease on short rest, 4.5 Ks for him. He has had a little bit of control issues as of late, but let's be realistic here. He is on short rest, but he only threw 82 pitches back on, October the 5th. So 4 days ago, he only threw 82 pitches, and boy, oh boy, it wasn't a good 82 pitches either, as they ended up beating him up there a little bit in that game. I believe it was 6 hits, 3 1/3 innings. He allowed 5 runs. So we're going to see if maybe that outing kind of straightened him up here a little bit and gave him a little bit of a motivation to go out and close the door on the Dodgers season. Feels like runs are coming in this game. And it does feel like we'd be crazy not to look at some sort of over as the Padres are swinging the bat. Unreal right now. So an over in that game, possibly there. As you can see, the total, again, still 8, 7.5, 8 in the marketplace. Not a bad look there. Don't trust, or though, you got to believe the Padres, that bullpen, certainly a big advantage over what they've got going on in the Dodgers bullpen. That is for sure. That game is coming up after the Yankee game, and the Mets still in a 1-0 game. Phillies trying to put some more runs on the board in the top of the 6th. Also coming up this week, in addition to the NFL Week 6 kicking off tomorrow with a battle of NFC West teams, let's not forget you do have the WNBA championship all set up, and it's going to be the Minnesota Lynx taking on the New York Liberty for the championship. And that's because we saw the Lynx take the Connecticut Sun to a Game 5 and win rather easily at that, as they handled business against the Connecticut Sun, who many people penciled and thought were going to go at the New York Liberty, the 2 best defensive teams in the WNBA all year long. Well, surprise, Minnesota said, I don't think so. Clear favorite here, the New York Liberty in this one. Minnesota Lynx certainly have the ability and certainly feel like they are, if anybody's going to have a chance to knock or at least win a game or 2 here in this against the Liberty, it would be the Minnesota Lynx. And they've had some problems this year against them, but a ton of firepower here and not a whole lot of scoring, as I think both teams have combined to score fewer than 150 points in the first 2 games against one another. They did score 165 or more in the final 3 times that they faced one another. As you can see, that number just under 160 here in this game coming up. 6.5 is the number for the Liberty. Boy, that's a big number there. Liberty have felt like they're just kind of hanging around, waiting to see who it is that they are going to have to deal with. Minnesota does have some pretty good shooters and an opportunity to shock the world at a pretty good plus price if you think they can handle the New York Liberty. We'll have much more on this throughout the championship, as the coach, James Young, will drop by, no doubt, on Game Time Decisions here over the next couple of days. We'll pick his brain on how he thinks this series is going to go. Don't forget the NHL also back in full effect there. I don't know if anybody happened to catch my champion Florida Panthers last night against the Boston Bruins, but boy, did they handle business in a big way here. Another full slate of games on your way here tonight. It's a beautiful time of year. We've got NBA preseason basketball happening. That will be here before we know it. We've got the NHL already underway. We still have postseason baseball, a World Series. We are right smack in the middle of the the college football as well as the NFL seasons here. And oh yeah, college hoops. Yeah, that too. We'll be back before we know it. And so will we. Much more still to talk about as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last three running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not genius.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday as we've got Major League Baseball on our minds here. A couple of games underway. One still to go here as the Mets trying to hold off the Philadelphia Phillies right now. 1-0 Philadelphia. They did have a couple of runners on here in the 6th inning. We'll see if the Mets bullpen can shut this potential rally down. And the Yankees and the Royals just underway at Kauffman Stadium. No doubt a man that has interest in both of these games stepping in. Mark Zinno in the house here. Certainly with the Yankee game here. Zin, Seth Lugo on the mound, taking on Clark Schmidt for the Yanks. Well, listen, I can promise you this, right? If Judge or Soto don't get on base tonight or get any hits, the Yankees probably are not winning. If one of them does, I like our chances. But how the hell do you bet that?
Well, you can't, and you don't. I mean, look, I looked at this game, and I know Lugo is a guy that we sort of wanted to fade down the stretch given what he has done. But down the stretch, it included a start against the Yankees where he went 7 innings and gave up no runs in a Royals win. And the Yankees aren't hitting right now, and they're not hitting with runners in scoring position. Joe, they're 3 for 19 with runners in scoring position through the first 2 games. that is a recipe for losing in the playoffs. Like, when guys get in scoring position, you have to get runs across. That's the number one rule of the playoffs. And I still will tell everybody, it's the manager's job to make sure those runs get manufactured in any size, way, shape, or form. And so, look, I think Clark Schmidt is the most trustworthy Yankee starter out there. And that is ahead of Garrett Cole, which says a lot because Cole hasn't been his typical Cy Young self this year. We know Rodon was going to get banged around after a 10-day rest. Schmidt is also on a long rest as well, but he's just a guy that, given his year and the fact that he's still working through coming back from the injury in the second half of the season, that, he hasn't really gotten into that groove yet by the time October rolls around. I think he's a great strikeout pitcher. His ERA on the road this year is 1.93. He's done his job that he's needed to do. The Yankees just haven't scored for him. They've scored 3.9 runs of support for him this entire season in the limited starts that he had, and that's not enough. So give me the fact that Lugo is good, not great, and the Yankees haven't been great at pushing runs across. And really, Joe, I think the handicap is simply this. I know the Royals bullpen is bad, right? And you kind of sit around and you wait, okay, well, when we get out of the starters, we'll get to the bullpen and attack them. But by that point, it may be too late if you've given up 2 or 3 runs because, you can only hope for a run or two to push across late in games. Getting 3 or 4 or 5 runs late in a game is very uncommon in the postseason. So if the Yankees don't get to Lugo early, I don't like their chances at all in the game. That said, again, I'm still willing to bet the first 5 under because there's nothing that's showing me that Judge all of a sudden is going to turn around and walk into a fastball and deposit it 450 feet into the seats with 2 guys on. Right. And so from that standpoint, I think it's going to be low scoring. And I took the first 5 under at 4.5. Shop around. I'm sure there are cheaper numbers out there, but odds makers are telling you they think this one will be a little bit higher scoring with the total at 8. Most of these playoff totals have sat at 7.5. So they should have gone over last night, to be honest with you, because the Yankees had first and second with nobody out in the first inning, didn't push a run across. They had first and second with 1 out in the third inning and didn't push a run across. So, that's really what this boils down to here is the fact that I don't think the Yankees are going to hit that much. And this could be a game that stays under. You just have to hope the Yankees bullpen is what really saves them here. But I trust Schmidt here to at least keep the Royals to a run, maybe 2 at most. And I don't know if the Yankees score much more than that.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about his strikeout prop. It felt like a low number, right? 3.5. It just felt low here. You agreed with that too? You like the over?
Yeah, I think Schmidt is a great strikeout pitcher, and he has been throughout his career. Now, last year, typically, his numbers were a little bit better in the strikeout category at home than they were on the road, but this year it's kind of been flipped for him. He's just been a better pitcher on the road. So I know the Royals aren't a high K-rate team, which is part of the reason why that number is so low. But a lot of this stuff, Joe, you can't look at a regular season sample size and say, this is what's going to happen in the playoffs. Look at the Tigers, for crying out loud. People are throwing lefties at them left and right because they can't hit lefty pitching. They're bottom 3 in the league in batting average, OPS, and WRC plus against left-handed pitching. And somehow they keep scratching runs across. Now, again, they don't have to scratch many runs across because their pitching has been lights out, outstanding. But that said, again, you look at the playoffs and you go, okay, well, this is what happened during the regular season. And more often than not, it doesn't play itself out that way.
Yeah, no, it's going to be. They don't want to do what the Guardians did, and that's fall behind 2 games to 1 here, or what the Phillies did. They want to be able to take control, and they did get out of the first inning with no score in that one. And then, of course, when your starting pitching blows, Zin, that's when you find yourself as a huge favorite facing elimination, and you got to rely on a bullpen and a rookie. And that's what the Dodgers have to do right now. Dylan Cease on a mound for the Padres in an elimination. Do they eliminate the Dodgers?
I hope so. I have futures on the Padres to win the NL and the World Series, so I got my fingers crossed here. But if they do lose, I set up for a hedge situation in Game 5. But that said, for me, this is about the Padres offense. And look, maybe the Tigers will turn around taking a page out of maybe the Dodgers rather are taking a page out of the Tigers book going, guess what? If they can pitch with chaos and just throw relievers at them, maybe we should do the same thing, because here's the rub. The Dodgers bullpen has been better than their starting staff, but we have proven to this point that really nobody's been able to get the Padres out. Nobody on the Dodgers has been able to get the Padres out with any regularity or consistency. And the thing is this, the Padres scored all 5 of their runs in Game 1 in the first 5 innings, and they scored all 6 of their runs in 1 inning in Game 3. They scored 10 in Game 2. 6 of those came in the 8th and 9th, but I'm still at 4 there in the first 5 innings. Now, the Dodgers aren't putting a starter out there, but if the Padres get shut down early, chances are they probably get shut down late against the Dodgers bullpen. So I look at the over 3.5 and go, if they're going to do this, they're going to do it with runs. Like, I think there's a world where San Diego can lose this game 5-4, but I feel like if San Diego gets to 5, they're definitely winning. So I kind of left myself an extra out here with only scoring 4 runs and taking a juice number here at over 3.5.
It feels like there's no way I'm sweating out an under here, though, either. Am I? I mean, just give me the over. Cease has not been great, and both bullpens are a little drained right now with these back-to-back games. Are we sweating out an under in this game?
Look, again, it's one of those things where if it doesn't happen in the first 5, it's probably not happening for the game.
It's not.
After the 6th inning, nobody scored a run.
Crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. We have an update from Citi Field. We'll do that when Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last 3 running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Jeanty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not genius.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Mark Zinno here as we're keeping our eye on the Major League Baseball postseason, and it has been fun to say the least. Maybe not so much for the Philadelphia Phillies, who are still up 1-0 here, bottom of the 6th, but this is usually where things start to go off the rails for the Phillies and this bullpen. Zin, how did you approach this game here today? Did you think the Mets close it out at Citi or what?
I genuinely do think that they closed it out. I mean, I played the first 5 under, which cashed. I trusted Ranger Suarez enough to get through, the first 5 innings and keep the Mets, bats down. I mean, at some point in time, you had to feel like some regression was headed for the Mets bats after scoring 6, 6, and 7 in each of the first 3 games, especially with it on the line. You needed to start from the guy who's been, prior to getting hurt, was the best pitcher in Major League Baseball for the first 2.5 months of the season. So they got that from him. And right now the Phillies just aren't hitting. It's the same thing with the Yankees. I mean, these are 2 of the highest scoring teams in baseball all year long. And guess what? Come to the postseason, nobody's touching the ball for them. I mean, when Trey Turner's batting 214, we know Kyle Schwarber always bats $143, but Trey Turner's batting 214, Alex Baum 083, Brendan Stott $182, JT Realmuto doesn't have a hit in this series yet. You know, this is a lineup during the season you had to fear. Right now, if it's not Harper and Castellanos, they're not pushing runs across. So, you know, it's one of those things. When they snap out of it, they'll snap out in a bunch, but I just don't know when and if that happens. If it's going to be able to happen in this series, but you know, the Mets pitching, you got to tip your cap to them, particularly the bullpen. It's been really good this series.
And what happens to the Guardians? I mean, they haven't scored a run in 20 innings now against this Tigers staff, and outside of Skubal, nobody's heard of anybody else, and yet they are keeping this. Guardians can't hit all of a sudden here. So do they close it out tomorrow? Could this be bye-bye Guardians?
I think they do, and here's the rub, and this is what's going to happen over the course for the Tigers. My guess is over the course of a 7-game series, and if you're the Tigers, you probably want the Royals more than you want the Yankees just because of their splits at home and road. But in a 7-game series, if the Tigers don't end it early, that bullpen is going to wear down over the course of 7 games because you can't keep throwing those arms all that much before somebody figures it out. Right? Like you're going to see these relievers 3-4 times over the course of a 7-game series, and it's going to come back to bite you because you just can't throw that much. You need a starter to go 6 or 7 innings to be able not only to limit the arms and the usage, but just to keep batters off balance as far as I've only seen this guy for one at bat this entire series. I don't have a big, large sample size against him and what he's doing as of late. So if they have to keep throwing these bullpen games other than Skubal getting out there, then you know, I feel like in a long series, it certainly hurts them a lot more.
Yeah, and it feels like there's a couple of teams, like there's Dodgers being one of them, too, when, you know, you can't get more than 13 innings out of your starters, and they're getting absolutely crushed. I mean, it feels like even if the Dodgers somehow get through, who are they beating?
Last night, you could tell that Dave Roberts was, like, at a loss for what
he knows it.
Because, like, you know, after it got to before it got to 6, when it was 4-1, I think 95% of every other manager has that guy out of there. But the Dodgers knew that if we don't start eating up some innings here, we're dead. Like we don't have a shot because they knew game 4, they didn't have a starter that they relied on and could trust. So they needed to save as many, which is why he was able to, they left Walker Buehler in there for 5. And granted, he didn't give up any other damage, but I don't know many other managers who would have let their starter after 4 runs came across, continue to pitch in that game. But you know, Dave Roberts was running out of options pretty quick last night. That may be the case that tonight, and it's a big if the Padres get to their bullpen early.
Yeah, and even like you said, you win the battle, you're going to lose the war, though, with that kind of – you can't keep doing that at some point, especially as the series moves from 5 games to 7 games. So tell me, from what you have seen thus far, what is our National League pennant coming down to? What's the American League pennant coming down to?
I mean, it looks like for me, it'd be Padres and Mets, which would be one heck of a series. I mean, that's really going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the Yankees. If they don't win tonight, I really just don't like their chances, period, in Kansas City to close this thing out. And I wonder if if they win tonight, I think they go to Luis Gil. If they lose, I think they're going to have no choice but to go back to Cole in game 4 to try to save their season off elimination. So that's the other big part of this. But, you know, look, if it's Cleveland and Detroit, boy, I mean, what a kind of boring series it is.
Yeah, no, that would, no, let's hope not here. As I believe the Mets have bases loaded, nobody out, and I believe the Royals have a runner on second with 1 out. Enjoy, my man. We'll see you again tomorrow. Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last three running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not Gene.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on the Sports Grid Network here as we're keeping an eye on Major League Baseball right now. Once again, the Mets trying to rally here, down 1-0, bottom of the 6th, bases juiced, only 1 out. Phillies going to the bullpen. Good luck with that. No score at the Yankees and the Royals, bottom of the 2nd, and of course, Dodgers and Padres set to take center stage a little bit later. Stepping in, here's our good friend Brady Cannon, who, in addition to the NFL, keeping your eye on some of these tournaments that are going on in the world of the PGA. And I believe the Black Desert Championship is what's coming up next year, Brady. This is an interesting time of year for the PGA Tour full swing, isn't it?
It is. And hey, last week there's not a lot of sexy star power in these fields, but we hit 120-1 winner in Kevin Yu. So, they all pay the same. We got another tournament here. This is the first time ever in 63 years, in fact, that we've been back to Utah for a PGA Tour event. But this is the first edition of the Black Desert Championship. This is only a couple hours away from Vegas. I've played up there a lot. This is a beautiful part of the country, that red desert mountain area looking. And you've got this golf course with this green grass that weaves through this black lava rock, really wide fairways and big greens. I think these guys are going to tear this place apart once again. Interesting here at the Superbook that the bettors are actually playing it down. They opened it up at 21.5 under par for a winning score. They're betting it down to 20.5. I think it's going to go the other way. This area or part of the country in southern Utah is known to get windy, but the forecast is not calling for anything worse than 15 miles an hour. It's a resort course, so the fairways are extra wide. It's built for you and me to go up there and enjoy ourselves, Joe, not PGA Tour players. So without any wind in these wide fairways, I think and at elevation, they're going to be able, it's a 7,400-yard course. It's going to play like 6,900 yards because of the elevation. I think these guys are going to have a field day out here. But I'm looking forward to it. Like you say, the fall swing, we're not going to expect to see the Scotty Schefflers and the Xander Schauffele's and all these guys, but it's a time for some of these younger up-and-comers to make a name for themselves, like Kevin Yu did last week.
Well, it's interesting. For a lot of these guys that are playing in these fall tournaments what's at stake for these guys here? And is there any value in looking for guys that are, they're on the verge of losing their tour card or whatever it may be at this point? Oh, I think we lost Brady there, but we'll get him back here in just a second here. But the full swing is absolutely in full effect here on the PGA Tour. Always a good time when you can hit 120-1 bomb last week, which is exactly what Brady did when he was on the show last week. He gave you out Kevin Yu. And boy, those of you that tailed, congratulations on that. In this week, though, at the Black Desert Championship, I think he said something extremely interesting here, that this is a resort course. It is the first time that the tour has actually been at this course in Utah. And I think he nailed it with the, whenever you say resort course, you're talking about they are not looking to have people pull their hair out and lose 9 million golf balls. They are looking for birdies. And with elevation, Brady, I can't imagine that these guys aren't. I mean, this number is going to be over the top, but are there any guys that have a little something to gain here that you think can carry this momentum into a course like this? I would imagine you better be able to putt, no?
Exactly. And I went that direction. Anytime you have a birdie fest, and last week when I landed on Kevin Yu, he is like 150th or something on the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting. He did everything else well. He was really a good fit for that golf course. And I said, if that putter gets hot for a couple days, we might have a winner on our hands. His putter got red hot. He finished 8th in the field last week for strokes gained putting. This week, I went with guys that are not only good off the tee, ball strikers off. This is a Tom Weiskopf design. The last piece of work he did in his illustrious career before he passed away a couple years ago. So I looked at guys that have played well on Weiskopf courses and can putt well. Your friend from Florida State, Daniel Berger. I went with Berger this week, who showed some signs last week at the Sanderson, got him at 40-1. He's been really good on a specific Weiskopf design, TPC Scottsdale. He's finished like 10th, 9th, 11th, and 7th there in the course of his career. You know, this guy's one of the best players in the world, used to be. And as soon as he can kind of resurface, he was off for almost 2 years because of injury. I think he's going to show up eventually. I'm hoping it's this week. And then also 40-1 on Andrew Novak, who's also a very good putter. I think it's 12th in this field over the last 36 rounds putting on bent grass is Novak. And he's done well at TPC Scottsdale and also at the Byron Nelson TPC Craig Ranch, another Weiskopf design. And then I went a little bit deeper, 55-1 on Justin Lower, who is red hot with the putter. This guy's one of the best putters in the field this week. He makes a ton of birdies. And another course that I compared this to, Joe, with really wide fairways and big greens is Vedanta Vallarta, where they hold the Mexico Open. And it was last year that Justin Lower finished 3rd there. So this guy seems to fit the bill. And then finally, a little home cooking here. Went with Harry Hall, the Englishman, who, by the way, lives in Las Vegas and went to UNLV, won his first PGA Tour event ever in Kentucky about 3 months ago, is great as far as making birdies and with the flat stick. So he checks a lot of boxes. And like I said, being only 90 minutes to a couple hours from this part of the country here in Las Vegas, I think Harry Hall is a guy who's going to be very familiar with these desert-like conditions. And again, maybe the familiarity gives him a little bit of an edge. So a 4-pack there, Daniel Berger and Andrew Novak at 40-1, Justin Lower and Harry Hall at 55.
Well, you had said it. This is the type of year here where you can get some pretty big prices and numbers on guy in this fall tour. And you certainly did last week, too. So we'll see if we can't follow it up this week here. I know you also had a lot of dogs on the card in the NFL last week. Are you following the dog trend into week 6?
Not yet. I mean, as far as Thursday night football goes, we start off tomorrow night in Seattle. I'd be leaning towards the favorite, actually, Joe. And, that might seem like malpractice, laying 3.5. You hate to lay 3.5 with a favorite in any situation. And now you go on the road. But you also know this, Joe. The fact that this is not at 3 yet tells me that the wise guys like the favorite. You know, if the wise guys liked Seattle here, this would already be to 3 and maybe even, 2.5 or what have you. So the fact that it's holding ground there at 3.5, and who knows, there could be movement before game time on Thursday. But the fact that it's still at 3.5, I think we know that the Niners are the better team. And they're starting to get healthier. And what did they do the last time that they were beaten upset fashion by the Los Angeles Rams? They came out the next week and blew the doors off the Patriots. Here they come off of an upset at the hands of the Arizona Cardinals. Are they going to, fall 2 straight in division? I don't think so. I think they bounce back here and get it right against a team that was probably a little bit overvalued in Seattle, starting off at 3-0.
Yeah, I don't think a little bit. I think they were definitely overvalued. Also, the total is getting a whole lot of love in that one. 47.5, now 49.5. And who can blame anybody for expecting the 49ers to score some points here? Brock Purdy can throw and make a he going to be able to throw on this Seattle defense who made Danny Dimes look like a competent quarterback. What in the world is that? Brady Cannon, always a pleasure, brother. Enjoy. Game Time Decisions continues after this.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last 3 running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not genius.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. As I'm still trying to get over the fact we were laughing last segment as I gave you an update there with the Phillies having to go to the bullpen once again after they loaded the bases up of New York Mets with 1 out. And when they went to the bullpen and we said, yeah, that's good luck with that. I wasn't joking. Lindor up at the plate for the New York Mets. I believe it was the first or second pitch he actually saw and ended up parking it for a grand slam. And the Mets are now up 4-1. And boy, watching the stadium at Citi Field, it was shades of the 86 Mets. The place was absolutely electric after he hit it. At that point, Lindor is not a guy that I want beating me, but okay, Phillies, you went to the bullpen to pitch to him, and your first pitch is you hung a breaking pitch that I'm pretty sure any one of us could have hit and hit rather hard, and Lindor absolutely destroyed it. So we've got now a Phillies team on the verge of collapse here and their season being over. We've got a runner on first for them. We'll see if they can muster up any hits here, but something tells me they are probably up against it here. And the Mets have done a pretty good job of creating distance in these late innings against this bullpen. Wouldn't shock me if before we know it, this game is all of a sudden 7-1 or 6-1, something along those lines, maybe even 7-2 like it was last night. I don't think the Mets are going to sit and just idly hope that they can keep the Philadelphia Bats at bay. Don't see that happening. But the game total was 7.5, I believe, pre-flop. We are now 5 runs in. A couple more runs, of course, will help that get to an over, and anything is possible. In the meantime, you've got the Yankees trying to get a little something going against Seth Lugo and the Royals. Still no score in that one. Top of the third inning right now. As, again, not a whole lot of runs. We kind of thought that maybe the Yankees could get early to Seth Lugo, but it's not the case right now. But give Clark Schmidt credit. He is also keeping the bats of the Royals at bay. This was not a very good hitting Royals team down the stretch, by the way. They were one of the worst hitting teams in Major League Baseball in the month of September. So heading into the postseason, this was a team that collectively was not even hitting 200 as a team in the month of September. So the idea that a lot of their games, we watched them, of course, in the first round, 1-0 Baltimore, shutting out Baltimore and the pitching staff doing its job, but it wasn't as if they were scoring all of these runs. In fact, game 1 against the Yankees was when they really exploded for some offense, but it's kind of hit or miss with them. They were a better team at home all season long hitting than they were on the road. They're going to have to get some runs on the board if they are going to take a big 2-1 lead over the New York Yankees. We'll see how that goes there. We also have coming up the Dodgers facing elimination against the Padres in a impossible start in which they're going to have to go to the bullpen. They're going to have to go to Landon Knack. They're going to have to go to their rookie pitcher, and they're going to have to hope that they don't have to go to the bullpen any more than that. They're going to need him to keep this red-hot hitting Padres lineup at bay for as long as possible, because that bullpen of the Dodgers, back-to-back games here, and boy, oh boy, we saw them have to go through it last night. They're running out of arms here. So this is absolute advantage to the Padres with Dylan Cease, although on short rest. Last time he faced the Dodgers wasn't good. That was 4 days ago. He only lasted 3 1/3 through 82 pitches, 84 pitches, and was not good. But on short rest with only that amount of pitches, then maybe, just maybe, this could exactly be what the Padres need in order to be able to close out the Dodgers. And what I don't even want to say that's an upset, because the Padres have been the best team in the National League, and maybe in Major League Baseball, they were the best team in the second half, bar none. I think you can go back even further than that. They were, once they got healthy, they made the trades to bolster the bullpen. They have been unstoppable. And as much as I'd like to say this is some sort of big upset with the Padres, it's not. The Dodgers have always been overvalued. The pitching staff was always the big concern. And the pitching staff, once again, is what in all likelihood is going to end their season here. Some of it injuries, obviously getting Glasnow hurt, not having, their ability to be able to keep any of their guys healthy, really, in the bullpen as well. It's caught up with them, and that's the problem they face. So keep in mind, boy, wouldn't it have been great if Ohtani could have pitched in this series. That would have been very interesting. But coming off that surgery once again, they're going to have to wait till next year. And that should not be a problem since he wants to continue to pitch. And the Dodgers, well, they could have used him this year to pitch for sure. But that series could be over tonight. The Mets. And again, I said I wouldn't shock me of them piling on. And that's what they're doing here. I've already got Alonso on third, I believe. Nobody out. They are up 4-1 after a Lindor grand slam home run given up by the bullpen. Now they're walking guys left and right. It is a hot mess for the Philadelphia Phillies, who once again peaked too soon this season early on, and then we're holding on for dear life at the end. So unfortunate for the Phillies. We'll see if they have any sort of big comeback here. They have the bats, they have the ability, but not if they can't stop the Mets from scoring right now, and they are threatening once again. So we'll keep an eye on this one. We have an update from Kauffman Stadium, and we'll take a look at Thursday Night Football as Game Time Decisions looks to close it out next here on The Grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last three running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not genius.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we getting you ready for a big night here in Major League Baseball, the postseason right now. You got the Mets trying to blow this game open against the Phillies up 4-1 rather. An opportunity here to get something done in the bottom of the seventh, get a few more runs on the board, and then pretty much set sail for what will be a National League championship appearance for them. And they'll have to wait and see whether or not it's the Dodgers or the Padres that they'll be battling for the National League pennant. In the meantime, you've got the Yankees right now in a 0-0 game against the Kansas City Royals, bottom of the third. Not a whole lot going on here. Lugo versus Clark Schmidt. Both guys seem to be in firm control of what's going on of these lineups. This is the first time through. We'll see what happens on the next time through, but that's what we're dealing with right now. We saw the Guardians lose earlier today to Detroit. Detroit has an opportunity to close them out tomorrow and advance and play for an American League pennant title. Kind of crazy, but that's the point where we're at right now. So will the Yankees take a 2-1 lead, or will it be the Royals in-game live coming up here, top of the hour? So you won't have to wait long. They'll have you covered the rest of the way through here as it does come to the end of the 7th. The Mets strand a couple of runners here, and we'll see if the Phillies can get back into this game. We also have, of course, a big game coming up to kick off week number 6 in the NFL tomorrow between the Seahawks and the 49ers. And the 49ers, and let's be realistic here, they are not used to being 2-3 at this point in the season. What started off as a promising 3-0 start for Seattle has quickly morphed into, oh my God, they're terrible. And they're terrible because they came home after getting lit up on the road against Jared Goff in Detroit. They came home and got lit up by Danny Dimes. So maybe, just maybe, this defense of Seattle is not quite what we thought it was going to be, which is also why I think we've seen the market push this total up to 49.5. This thing opened up 47.5, and quite honestly, don't see it happening. And I also don't see the 49ers defense stopping anybody either. Both of these teams have had to deal with plenty of injuries here. I mean, big time. We just saw the Seattle team, right, gave up, 29 to the Giants. They got lit up for more than 30 against the Detroit Lions there on the road. Not a great spot. And yet the 49ers could not stop Arizona and Kyler Murray when it mattered the most. So I do think if the game script here happens where Seattle falls behind quickly, and if I'm San Francisco, I want to be playing from in front. That's how it works with them. Then you're going to force Geno Smith and company against this 49ers defense to just go and throw the ball. They're not going to have time to establish that running game. I do think that passing is going to be the way they're going to have to get back into these games, which leads me to a lot of Geno Smith over props, not to mention over in the game props. I would not mind taking a shot at the 49er team total, 25.5. I have no problem looking up and over to that, considering this Seattle defense. I mean, Will McDonald, the head coach, coming over from the Baltimore Ravens, we were supposed to be enamored with how good a DC he was, and somehow he was going to transform this Seattle defense into a championship group. And, well, not when you're giving up 42 to Detroit. Now, granted, a lot of injuries to this defense here over the last couple of weeks, but even still, when you give up 29 points to Daniel Jones, who didn't have Malik Neighbors, this is not a great defense by any stretch of the imagination. And the 49ers, their offense has struggled at times, but they have elite playmakers, and I think it's a really good opportunity to get right for Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy and Shanahan out for a little revenge here, I think, are going to have no problem in throwing all over this weak Seattle secondary and defense. I would expect points, and more points in this one. All right, coming up, you've got In-Game Live, Dane Martinez, Dave Sherapan. They've got you covered. Game Time Decisions. We'll be back again tomorrow. Enjoy the games. We'll see you again soon.